The island was a prisoner, held captive by a tempest that never ceased. Winds roared across the churning sea, lashing the jagged cliffs with relentless fury. Rain fell in sheets, a cold, stinging torrent that blurred the line between sky and sea. The air crackled with energy. Lightning danced across the sky, a deadly ballet of blinding light and deafening thunder. This was no ordinary storm. This was a maelstrom of unnatural power, fueled by a force beyond human comprehension. The island, once a paradise of lush greenery and tranquil beaches, was now a desolate wasteland, stripped bare by the relentless assault of wind and water. Its inhabitants, a small group of souls unfortunate enough to be trapped in this watery hell, huddled in the ruins of their homes. Their faces were etched with fear, their eyes reflecting the storm's fury. They were battered, bruised and broken, but they clung to life, their spirits flickering like candles in the wind. They whispered tales of the island's curse, stories passed down through generations, legends of a malevolent entity that slumbered beneath the waves, its anger manifesting in the endless storm. The storm was their jailer, the island their prison, and they were all its prisoners. The sky above the island was a canvas of chaos, a scene that seemed to have been painted by the hand of a mad artist. A swirling vortex of black and grey clouds, illuminated by the constant flashes of lightning, created an almost hypnotic dance in the sky. The wind howled like a banshee, its mournful cries echoing across the desolate landscape, carrying with it the scent of salt and despair. Rain lashed down with such force that it felt like needles against the skin, each drop a tiny dagger of cold and pain. The sea raged and churned, its surface a mass of whitecaps and swirling eddies, as if the ocean itself was trying to break free from some unseen chains. The storm was a living, breathing entity, a monstrous force of nature that seemed to have a will of its own. It pulsed with a malevolent energy that seemed to seep into the very marrow of those caught within its grasp, a dark presence that loomed over the island like a curse. It was relentless, unforgiving, and utterly terrifying, a force that showed no mercy and offered no respite. The islanders called it the Fury, a name that spoke of their fear and respect for the tempest that ruled their lives. A fitting name for the tempest that held them captive, a storm that seemed to have a personal vendetta against the island and its inhabitants. They had long since given up hope of rescue, their dreams of salvation washed away by the relentless rain and wind. No ship in its right mind would dare venture near the island in such weather, the Fury's reputation known far and wide. The Fury was a jealous mistress, and she tolerated no rivals, her wrath reserved for those who dared to challenge her dominion. She claimed all who dared to challenge her, dragging their souls down to the depths to join her in her watery grave. The islanders were trapped, prisoners of the storm. At the mercy of the storm and the entity that controlled it, they huddled together, seeking comfort in each other's presence. They were pawns in a game they didn't understand, their lives hanging by a thread, each day a struggle for survival. And as the Fury raged on, they knew one thing for certain: they were running out of time. The storm showed no signs of abating, and with each passing moment their hope dwindled further. The island, once a paradise, had become a prison, and the Fury its unyielding warden. The islanders could only watch and wait, praying for a miracle that seemed less likely with every thunderclap and lightning strike. The sky had indeed gone mad, and they were caught in its madness, their fate uncertain, their future bleak. The wind carried more than just the scent of salt and rain. It was a messenger, a harbinger of stories long forgotten and secrets buried deep within the island's heart. It whispered secrets to those who dared to listen, secrets that were both a warning and a guide. Tales of the island's past, of the ancient ritual that had angered the entity known as the Fury. This entity, a force of nature, had been awakened by the hubris of those who sought to control it. Legends of sacrifices made to appease the storm, of blood spilled on the altar of the Fury. These sacrifices were meant to quell the anger of the storm, but they only seemed to feed its insatiable hunger. The islanders gathered around flickering oil lamps, their faces drawn and pale in the dim light. They were a community bound by fear and hope, clinging to each other in the face of the relentless storm. They spoke in hushed tones, their voices barely audible above the roar of the wind. Each whisper was a thread in the tapestry of their shared history, a history marked by loss and resilience. They shared stories of loved ones lost to the storm, of homes and lives swallowed by the sea. These stories were not just memories, they were warnings, lessons etched in the collective memory of the island. Each tale was a testament to the Fury's power, a chilling reminder of their own mortality. The storm was a living entity, a force that could not be tamed or reasoned with. One story, whispered more often than the others, spoke of a way to break the curse. It was a story of hope, a glimmer of light in the darkness, a ritual, even older than the one that had unleashed the Fury's wrath. This ancient ritual was said to hold the key to redemption, a way to restore balance and peace to the island, a ritual of redemption, of sacrifice and of hope. It required a deep understanding of the island's ancient lore, a connection to the spirits that dwelled within its sacred places. But the details of the ritual were lost to time, passed down through generations in fragmented whispers and half-remembered dreams. The islanders searched tirelessly, piecing together clues from old scrolls and tattered books. The islanders clung to these whispers, desperate for any glimmer of hope in the face of despair. They believed that somewhere within the ancient texts and the stories of their ancestors lay the answer they sought. They searched for answers in the patterns of the storm, in the ancient ruins that dotted the island, and in the depths of their own hearts. Each clue, each fragment of a story brought them one step closer to understanding the true nature of the Fury and the path to their salvation. Section 4. The Ritual. The islanders, driven by desperation and fueled by the whispers of the wind, decided to perform the ritual. They had heard tales of its power, passed down through generations, and now, with their backs against the wall, they saw no other option. The whispers seemed to carry the voices of their ancestors, urging them to take this final desperate step. They gathered in a hidden grove, shielded from the worst of the storm by a ring of ancient, gnarled trees. This grove was a sacred place, untouched by time, where the islanders believed the spirits of their forebears resided. The trees, with their twisted branches and thick canopies, seemed to form a protective barrier, a sanctuary amidst the chaos. The air crackled with anticipation and fear. It was as if the very atmosphere was charged with the weight of their hopes and the dread of what might come. Every breath they took was heavy with the scent of rain and earth, mingled with the electric tang of the storm. An old woman, her face a roadmap of wrinkles and wisdom, stepped forward. She was revered among the islanders, not just for her age, but for the knowledge she carried. Her eyes, though clouded with age, still held a spark of determination and resolve. She was the keeper of the island's lore, the last surviving link to their ancestors. Her role was not just to remember the past, but to guide the present and protect the future. The weight of this responsibility was evident in her every movement. In her trembling hands, she held a weathered scroll, its surface covered in faded symbols. These symbols were the key to the ritual, a language long forgotten by all but a few. Each mark on the scroll told a story, a piece of the island's history and a promise of what could be. As lightning flashed overhead, casting grotesque shadows that danced across the clearing, the old woman began to chant. Her voice, though frail, carried the weight of centuries, echoing through the grove and beyond. Her voice, thin and reedy, rose above the roar of the storm. It was a sound both haunting and beautiful, a melody that seemed to resonate with the very soul of the island. The islanders joined in, their voices growing in strength and fervor. Together they created a symphony of hope and desperation, a plea to the heavens for mercy and salvation. They chanted of the island's sorrow, of their repentance, and of their desperate hope for redemption. Each word was a testament to their suffering, a cry for forgiveness and a promise to honor their ancestors. The wind seemed to still, as if listening to their pleas. It was as though the very elements were pausing to hear their cries, to weigh their sincerity and their need. The rain softened to a gentle drizzle. The harsh, relentless downpour gave way to a softer, more forgiving rain, as if the storm itself was moved by their plight. For a moment there was a sense of peace, of hope. It was a fragile, delicate thing, but in that instant it felt real. The islanders dared to believe that their prayers might be answered, but it was a fleeting moment. The calm was like a breath held too long, a pause before the inevitable. As quickly as it had come, it vanished. The tranquility shattered like glass, leaving them exposed and vulnerable once more. With a deafening roar, the storm returned, fiercer than ever. It was as if the island itself was rebelling against their efforts, refusing to be tamed. The wind howled, the rain lashed down, and the ground trembled beneath their feet. The storm's fury was unrelenting, a force of nature that seemed determined to break them. The islanders screamed in terror as the fury unleashed its full wrath upon them. Their voices, once united in hope, now fractured into cries of fear and despair. The ritual, their last hope, seemed to have failed, leaving them at the mercy of the storm. Section 5. Faces in the Storm. As the storm reached its crescendo, something impossible happened. Faces began to appear within the swirling maelstrom of wind and rain, grotesque, distorted visages with eyes that glowed with an eerie internal light. They were the faces of the drowned, the souls claimed by the fury over the centuries. The faces swirled and danced around the terrified islanders, their mouths open in silent screams. They reached out with spectral hands, their touch cold and insubstantial. The islanders cowered in fear, their chants dissolving into terrified whimpers. The old woman, her eyes wide with terror, realized the truth. They had angered the entity. Their ritual, performed in desperation and ignorance, had awakened something ancient and evil. They had not appeased the fury. They had unleashed its full wrath. The faces in the storm were a harbinger of their doom, a chilling reminder that death came for all who dared to defy the island's curse. The islanders were trapped, surrounded by the spirits of the damned and the fury of the storm.